The people were troubled by Jesus saying that he was the bread that came down from heaven. But then even his disciples were troubled by what we hear at the end of this gospel message, that as the bread that comes down from heaven, he will feed them by giving his flesh for the life of the world. That, of course, didn't set well with his hearers, his own disciples. How is it that they were going to eat his flesh? It sounded a bit cannibalistic. And yet in time, Christians began to understand that what Jesus was saying is that God has decided that he would bring about grace in our lives that would lead to eternal life through the human existence, the flesh and blood existence of our humanity. And so we are to see all that Jesus did in his flesh and blood existence as conveying that divine life. The moment in which he cried and shed tears for his good friend Lazarus. The moment he took the hand of the child and brought her to new life. The moments in which he healed the sick by a simple touch. All of those very human experiences, Jesus is saying, by his flesh and blood existence, he is conveying the very life of God. And it is important for us to understand that as well in terms of the Eucharist that we receive. When Jesus at the Last Supper says, "This is my body given up for you, my blood poured out for you," he could say that because that's how he lived his whole life. He lived in his flesh and blood existence in a way that gave people new life. That says so much to us about how we view our human existence, our flesh and blood existence. That the moments in life in which we make contact with another person that gives them life is a moment of God's grace. I think perhaps the best example of that is a mother giving birth to a child. Not just bringing that child into this life, but opening that child to eternal life. Or the moments in which an artist uses their talents, their voice, their ability to paint, to sculpt. They too are by God's grace raising our sights to something beyond ourselves. The moments in which we offer a person a smile or a hug. All of these are moments in which God's grace can be communicated to others. What that means is that we really should take seriously our human existence, that God has chosen to be the means by which his grace for eternal life is communicated to others. All the wonderful acts that we do in our flesh and blood existence, God takes and gives new life to other people. We should value the good that we can do in our fleshly existence and take it seriously. That's why I was struck by that last line from Paul's letter to the Ephesians that we have today. And it is a wonderful means of encouraging us to respect our bodily lives, to realize that our bodily lives and our flesh and blood existence, God has chosen to be the means by which God will act in the world and bring new life to people. Listen to those words again. Be imitators of God. Live in love as Christ loved us and handed himself over for us as a sacrificial offering to God. That is how we are to live our lives, in imitation of God, in our loving embrace and touch of others, so that they will know the very life of God. We too then can say, we give our flesh for the life of the world when we do what Jesus does in the Eucharist that we receive, to take his flesh and drink his blood. We will take on his life and understand that our lives are the means by which God's grace is given for the salvation of the world.